On the night team. Records smashed by early voters in Kentucky.
We all anticipated a high turnout, but not this high.
792,000 Kentuckian voters and more than 1 million Hoosiers cast their ballots ahead of the election. We're hearing from county clerks on this historic turnout. Plus, a free and local way you can get to the polls on Election Day, and from local to state to national elections.
America is ready for a fresh start.
And if we let this slip away, we should have our heads examined.
2 days until Election Day, and the presidential candidates are not letting up, both continuing to appeal to key battleground states. Right now on the WHAS11 night team. Over 792,000 Kentuckians have already cast their ballot in this year's election, a number election officials say is defying expectations. It's our top story right here on the night team. I'm Alex Dieterer. Kentucky Secretary of State Michael Adams says more than 650,000 Kentuckians voted early and in person. The WHAS 11 night team's Alexandra Goldberg and photojournalist Aspen Hester caught up with election officials today, who say the turnout is unheard of.
792,000 early voters.
I believe it. I believe it.
Kentucky Secretary of State calls it a record-shattering number.
We all anticipated a high turnout, but not this high.
In Oldham County,
your one vote could be that swinging vote to change something.
And in Jefferson County,
we haven't seen this before.
Elections officials say voters cast their ballots early because of a contentious presidential election.
It's a presidential election. Those are popular with voters. When you look at what's going on in the world, everyone has strong opinions about that.
Ashley Tinius, communications director for the Jefferson County Clerk, says roughly 1 in 6 registered voters in the county voted early, attracting those who even sat out in past years.
You might see first-time voters because of the popularity of this election, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lot of younger voters. You're seeing a little bit of everything.
Oldham County Clerk Amy Alvey says she saw both first-time voters, specifically young people, and elderly voters.
Social media has really pushed the young population to get involved. We have a range of 18-year-old poll workers, and my oldest has just turned 94.
In Oldham County, 19,000 ballots cast over the 3-day period.
It's really heartwarming for someone that spends many, many hours and days of their life preparing for it. And
polling centers like Bowman Field saw long lines like those for all 3 days of early voting. Now, counties across the state are gearing up for the same enthusiasm for Tuesday.
Will we get another 19,000 on Election Day? I think we will.
I think we'll see the same amount of enthusiasm on November 5th.
Record-setting. 2 words officials are using to describe early voting and what they hope continues on Election Day in Kentucky. In Louisville, Alexandra Goldberg, WHAS 11 night team, on your side.
And in Indiana, more than 1 million Hoosiers have already cast their ballots early, and more could turn out tomorrow for the state's final day of early voting. There are several places you can cast your vote early in southern Indiana. You can head to our website, WHAS11.com, for our voter guide. And for those voting on Election Day in Louisville, TARC doesn't want a lack of transportation to keep you from the polls. That's why TARC says all routes will be fare-free all day on Election Day. This applies to all rides, whether it's to your nearest polling place or any other location. TARC 3 paratransit rides will also be free. The polls are open from 6 in the morning to 6 p.m. on Tuesday. And a quick reminder that if you're in line by 6 p.m., you are still allowed to vote. And here at WHAS, we are keeping a close eye on several races across Kentuckiana. That includes the closer than expected race for Indiana governor. Republican Senator Mike Braun is facing former Republican superintendent turned Democrat Jennifer McCormick and Libertarian Donald Rainwater. Braun is a businessman and has served in the Senate since 2019. He's been leaning on his record in the Senate and his experience running a business as reasons he's the best option for governor. However, the GOP he selected Micah Beckwith, a controversial pastor, as his running mate and has some voters shying away from Rob. McCormick is using her experience as an educator to push her platform. She's also been touting support she's received from both Republicans and Democrats.
There's a tremendous amount of energy, there's a tremendous amount of urgency, and people are fired up to get it done. Let me remind everybody, this isn't about just one particular party, this is about Hoosiers.
The biggest thing that separates me from my opponent is her experience of never signing the front side of a paycheck, wanting to run a business with 32,000 employees, 80 agencies, 30 major ones.
Libertarian Donald Rainwater has serious pull with voters. Last gubernatorial election, Rainwater pulled 11% of the vote in 2020. Some of the other races in Indiana we're watching closely include the race for House of Representatives in southern Indiana. Representative Aaron Houchin currently holds the seat and is being challenged by Tim Peck. Republicans hold a narrow lead in the nation's House of Representatives and are hoping to maintain and even improve upon that this election year. Another tight race is for Indiana's House of Representatives in District 71. Republican Scott Hawkins is trying for his second time to grab the seat he lost in 2022. The seat is currently held by Democrat Wendy Dant Chesser, who took over the seat when Rita Fleming retired midterm. Dant Chesser has been attacking Hawkins for donations his campaign received from former Clark County Sheriff Jamie Knoll. And in Kentucky, millions of dollars are being funneled into the so-called school choice amendment. Amendment 2 asks Kentuckians if they are in favor of the General Assembly providing financial support to students outside of public schools. A yes vote on Amendment 2 will allow the state legislature to pass bills that could send funds to private schools, while a no vote keeps public funds in public schools. The amendment question has also started to become a battle of influences. Republican Senator Rand Paul is pushing for a yes vote. He's saying it will open opportunities for Kentucky students, while Democratic Governor Andy Beshear has been advocating for voters to strike down the amendment.
People in Kentucky need to get out and vote against Amendment 2 and support public education.
I think that educational freedom, educational choice is the civil rights of our era, and we ought to do something about it today.
Now, it is important to clarify that Amendment 2 does not specify how the state dollars would be used if it passes. Some suggestions have included tax credit scholarships, education savings accounts, or vouchers. Other key races in Kentucky we're watching closely include 2 state house races in Jefferson County. Republicans currently hold a supermajority in the state legislature. However, Democrats are hoping to slowly work away at that advantage. In District 37, Republican incumbent Emily Callaway is being challenged by the former JCPS bus union president John Stovall. And in District 48, Republican incumbent Ken Fleming is being challenged by Democrat Kate Farrow. Fleming led the charge to create a task force to study JCPS's size and how it's run day to day. Farrow is hoping her endorsement from Andy Beshear will help her flip the seat. And across the nation, presidential candidates are storming across the battleground states, hoping to sway last-minute voters just 2 days from the election. ABC's Allison Cossack has the details.
On this final Sunday before Election Day, Vice President Harris making several stops across the battleground state of Michigan, speaking to the congregation at a black church in Detroit.
I see a nation determined to turn the page on hatred and division and chart a new way forward.
Then stopping at 2 local businesses before heading to a rally at Michigan State University.
America is ready for a fresh start. Ready for a new way forward, where we see our fellow American not as an enemy, but as a neighbor.
Former President Donald Trump with stops Sunday in Pennsylvania and North Carolina.
And if we let this slip away, we should have our heads examined.
Trump then traveling to Macon, Georgia.
We're just 2 days away from what will be the most important political event in the history of our country.
While polls still show Harris and Trump locked in a dead heat, a Des Moines Register poll of likely voters in Iowa Iowa, a red-leaning state, shows Harris with a 3-point lead. Although that lead is within the margin of error, Trump's team is on defense, calling the poll an outlier. The former president is already disparaging the election, falsely claiming cheating would be the only way he could lose.
The ones that should be locked up are the ones that cheat on these horrible elections.
State and federal officials say U.S. elections have only gotten more secure. Harris arguing Trump is trying to sow doubt amongst voters.
It is meant to distract from the fact that we have and support free and fair elections in our country. We did in 2020. He lost.
On the final day before millions cast their ballots, both candidates will hold campaign events Monday in Pittsburgh, hoping to win over voters in the must-win state of Pennsylvania. Allison Cossack, ABC News, New York.
WHAS11 will be on air all night on election night for live special coverage starting at 7. We'll be streaming on WHAS11 Plus and the WHAS11 YouTube channel. Then at 11, the WHAS11 night team will have a complete wrap-up of local races and results with team coverage and insights from political experts. Now, more local news for you tonight on the night team. A wrong-way crash on I-265 overnight has left 2 people dead. LMPD says it responded to a call of a wrong-way driver on the Gene Snyder around 1:40 this morning near the New Cut Road interchange. That's southeast of the airport. Now, LMPD says a man entered the interstate traveling north in the southbound lanes before he struck a woman driving the correct way. Emergency crews worked to free the drivers, but they were declared dead at the scene. No other cars were involved in the crash, and right now LMPD says it does not know if the wrong-way driver was impaired. Norton West Louisville Hospital, which is the first hospital in West Louisville in 150 years, is now just days away from opening its doors to patients. Located off West Broadway, the medical offices will house adult primary care providers and specialists in cardiology, neurology, and women's care, among others. There will also be 24/7 emergency department care to treat patients, as well as a retail pharmacy and pediatric space, bringing back lost health care to West Louisville.
We talk about health disparities and folks mention social determinants of health. We can talk about it all day long, but until you plant your feet in the ground and put a mailbox in the neighborhood, those things won't change. And so that's a representation here of us doing what we promised that we were going to do.
Norton West Louisville Hospital opens this Friday, which is November 11th, and WHAS11's Doug Profit will be live at the hospital starting at 4 p.m. on Friday to commemorate the history and impact this hospital will have on West Louisville.